Coming up on show 876, the 517-mile Lucid Air will do that from an incredibly small-sized battery, which means big efficiency. Stick around, I'll tell you more. Plus, VW now taking deposits for the ID4 in the US. The Chinese EV maker Xpeng floats on the New York Stock Exchange and does well immediately. And a new plug-in hybrid, BMW and Porsche Panamera, to talk about. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. Here's what happened on Thursday, 27th of August. My name is Martin Lee, going through every EV story so you don't have to. And whilst I'm doing the news, the team at myev.com are doing the actual cars that you could be driving. If you're buying and selling, if you're into the marketplace, if you need a marketplace for EVs, as long as the cars have a plug socket on, well then your first choice should be myev.com. Totally free resource to use as well if you're a dealer or you're on a warranty. Good reasons to check it out along the way. Okay. First story today, and when Lucid Motors revealed the range of its forthcoming electric sedan, plenty of eyebrows were raised. Now, independent testing, in fact, the same test that gets done for the EPA range. Now, it wasn't the EPA testing, but it was exactly the same as the testing they do in the same location, so it's pretty accurate. They said it enters production later this year, and when it does, it'll come with 517 miles of range, at least. That's 832 kilometers on a single battery charge. Now, at the time, we didn't know the battery capacity. Plenty of people were saying, well, it's easy to get range, you just add more batteries. But we knew, if you've been paying attention to the Lucid story, which of course includes many, the ex-Tesla team, we knew that they've been very proud of their efficiency. And we knew that actually the battery sizes that they declared they were going to use a long time ago, so we knew they weren't going to be these crazy large pack sizes. Well, at the time we didn't know exactly the pack size that was referring to, but now we do. The Lucid Air, the biggest one, most expensive one, with 517 miles of range, will come with a 113 kilowatt-hour pack, according to Ars Technica. Now, there is a bit of a caveat in here, because 517 miles from that size battery pack, 113 kilowatt hours, which is bigger than the Tesla Model S, for instance, the long range. This would be 4.57 miles per kilowatt hour, or 13.6 kilowatt hours per 100, or 136 watt hours per kilometre. So that's very, very efficient by EV standards. But what about the other pack sizes? Well, Lucid have previously told us that they will make pack sizes in 60, 100 and 120. So if we think that's still the case, and it was a while ago we heard that, then by the news today being 113 kilowatt hours, it sounds like the 120 kilowatt hour pack has 7 reserved for a buffer at the top and the bottom for pack health, and it's 113 usable. So if that's the case, then the smallest battery pack, the 60 kilowatt hour, would have something like 56 kilowatt hours usable, and that would equate to 258 miles or 415 kilometres. Now again, that's not a massive headline grabber, 258 miles, but of course the car will be a lot cheaper. What price will the Lucid Air start at? Some say $60,000, which is still a lot of money, but they have made an incredibly efficient car there. And of course, the big battery pack and the full size pack, and the car's going to be over $100,000. We know that. They're not playing in the kind of everyday cheap and cheerful cars here. The Lucid CEO and CTO, the man behind the Model S at Tesla, Peter Rawlinson, said, and I quote, "It's relatively easy to achieve more range by adding progressively more batteries. But gaining dumb range that way increases weight and cost and reduces interior space. The Lucid Air has achieved its remarkable range whilst also reducing the battery size through its in-house technology, resulting in a breakthrough in overall vehicle-level efficiency," end quote. So some great news there. We'll find out more on the 9th of September when we get the official unveil of the Lucid Air, a car that for a long time I've been saying I'm really excited about. Not because I can ever afford one, but because these kind of cars open the door to more cars that are affordable. It's just the way the world works. And so those people that can afford $100,000 for a car, they will be able to keep Lucid in business to do that work, to increase their efficiency, to raise the game for the other EV makers as well. And then by the time that trickles down, the rest of us win. And that is where I have my eye on. Maybe not today, but a few years down the line, these kind of efficiencies are just brilliant. But as a headline story as well, it's fantastic. 517 miles, over 830 kilometres from usable 113 kilowatt hours. That's incredible. Well done, team. I'll pop a link to Ars Technica in the show notes if you'd like to read more. Okay, next story today. American buyers can take delivery of a VW ID4. That is the crossover SUV big brother of the ID3. You can take delivery in the US by the end of the year. For those that want to make sure that you get VW's electric crossover first, the car maker will open up reservations in just a few days' time in September, according to the Car and Driver website. When the orders open online, reservation systems will go live and you can configure and reserve your ID4 with just $100 totally refundable deposit. You can then track your vehicle status via the portal, which is called My VW. An additional $400 deposit is required when you actually want to configure. But even until the point at which you get the car, that entire $500 is still fully refundable all along the way until you actually buy the car. I'll pop a link to Car and Driver in the show notes. I think it's amazing if they can get cars in customers' hands before the end of the year. Left-hand drive in the US market, that's going to be amazing because the cars won't be made in the US until 2022 and they open up the Chattanooga plant. So these are going to be the ones made in probably Germany, maybe the ones made in China, heading to the US. And so if you're excited about the VW ID4, it's obviously going to be competition for the Tesla Model Y and in some ways the Model 3, but size-wise and shape-wise, Model Y, e-Niro, Kona, those kind of cars. But of course, VW still getting the full $7,500 federal tax credit, state incentives to layer on top of that as well. And we know we know that those cars already have margin on it, i.e. they are profitable. VW haven't done this project by selling loss leaders. And so these cars are profitable for VW and they're going to sell them, they say, at very competitive prices. They've taken longer than some wanted them to get there, but they didn't want to put an EV on the market. They didn't want to do the Lucid model of saying, well, here's our $100,000 car. VW wanted to come in at a price point that makes you go, oh, okay, right, that's worth a consideration. Again, we don't know the final prices, but we'll keep a very close eye on that. And the biggest battery pack size of the VW ID4 as well. Be very, very competitive with those wanting to do the long distance road trips in the US. We do fewer miles over here, but still, range, as we always say. If you can get it, go for it. Range every day of the week above anything else. All right, let's talk about a Chinese EV maker next. Xpeng. They just launched on the New York Stock Exchange and their shares jumped immediately 54% on their debut on Thursday after raising $1.5 billion on their IPO, the initial public offering, according to Reuters. Shares of Xpeng, which counts the Chinese e-commerce giant, the titan that is Alibaba and Xiaomi Group amongst their other backers, opened at $23.10, up from a raised offer price of $15. And once again, there's plenty of heat from just the wider market in terms of EVs. I know plenty of people saying that Tesla's a bubble right now. Discuss. I'm sure everyone has an opinion on that. Or maybe not, but still, share price of Tesla has gone crazy bonkers over the last few weeks and months as well. And those like NIO and Xpeng are getting in on the action, and people seemingly wanting to get a piece of the electric vehicle action with big, big raises all around. So, to try and find out what the public's tipping point will be for electric vehicles, Castrol, yeah, you heard me right, Castrol, as in makers of oil, decided to bankroll a study, and the resulting 50-page document, of which I've not read every page, requires a bit of commitment to get through, but you'll read the headlines, which is what I did to give to you. The study's methodology and Castrol's motives are all in there, according to CNET. Now, CNET say the bulk of the data comes from about 9,000 vehicle owners from 8 different countries, and roughly there's like the outcome of this survey is there's about 3 milestones that everyone seems to agree on. The range seems to coalesce around 291 miles. That people say they'll buy an EV when an EV can do 291 miles. People also say they'll buy an EV when it can charge in 30 minutes or less. And people say I'll buy an EV when the average purchase price is around $36,000. Now, if you're thinking what I'm thinking, you're already there before me when I was reading this, because it took me a while to go, oh, hang on a minute. Those cars all exist, but not all in one car. There isn't one car that'll do 291 miles, that'll fully charge in less than 30 minutes and cost less than $36,000. I don't think that car exists. I have been racking my brain. Of course, the Chinese cars don't measure on a realistic NEDC, which is not a realistic way of measuring it. So maybe there's a Chinese car that can come close if you do the conversion. But let's say on sale in Europe, UK, America, Aussie. I can't think of any car that ticks all those boxes, but there's plenty of cars that will, like the Model 3 will go more than 291 miles. Plenty of EVs will charge to 80% in less than 30 minutes. Look at the fastest charging cars around at the moment, and not just the Taycan, the Porsche Taycan, which has its headline speed, and the Lucid Air, which is going to charge on a 900 volt system, so super efficient if you can get those faster chargers. But also like the Audi e-tron, that charges really quickly, 150 kilowatt charge speeds. But all the Teslas are charging increasingly quicker. But they don't cost $36,000. There are plenty of EVs that cost $36,000 or less. I mean, mine costs way less than half of that, and it'll do 200 miles. But again, not everyone wants a compact car. Mine will do about 200 miles on an average day. A bit more when it's warm, and when it's cold and I got the heating on and the air conditioning and stuff, a bit less. But still, that does me. 200 miles is absolutely fine for a car that was, well, I won't tell you the exact amount, but anyway. But it was a very affordable EV. If you want to read the CNET article, I'll pop a link in the show notes. So there is news about the electric car maker Byton, which has been temporarily suspended since the 1st of July. Chinese media now reporting that the company is going to resume their operations from next month in September, says Electrive. At the end of June, Byton wasn't looking like they were going to cope with the fallout of COVID. Spokesman Dan Buchko announced a 6-month pause in operations starting 1st of July and dismissal of pretty much everyone around the world that worked for the company. And a comeback, it seemed unlikely, but like a phoenix from the flames, Auto News Gasco now reporting that it looks like of the 100 employees that remained in China and that the offices in North America and Germany could be saved with a bit of a lifeline, and Byton coming back. Fingers crossed that's true, and we'll follow that story closely. One of the stories I mentioned at the beginning of the show is a new plug-in hybrid from Porsche, the Panamera. Oh, lovely. The Panamera 4SE Hybrid, a refreshed version of its second-generation Panamera, coming with new styling changes as well, and like I say, an e-hybrid plug-in system. And it, according to Inside EVs, has power coming from a 2.9-litre V6 with twin turbos, an electric motor that makes 552 horsepower combined, and 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. That is rather rapid. Tops out at 186 miles an hour. If you're on the Autobahn in Germany, that's 300 kilometers an hour, and it's actually quicker than the former turbo model, and comes with a larger battery pack than before as well, so it's heavier. More electric range than the previous Panamera plug-in hybrids. The battery pack got bigger, from 14 to 18 kilowatt hours, a 27% increase, and it fiddled with the drive modes to help the car be more efficient than it ever has been. All-electric range on the European WLTP measurement of 34 miles, that's 54 Ks. No EPA rating yet, but that is if you find some money down the back of the sofa and you're in the market for a nice plug-in Porsche. Very, very sexy. Talking of plug-ins, a couple more. Let's talk Kia and the plug-in hybrid version of the Sorento 7-seat SUV available from early next year. The powertrain has a 177 horsepower, 1.6 litre petrol and a 90 horsepower electric motor. The battery is 14 kilowatt hours. Nice, good size, not the biggest, but good. Well done, Kia. 261 horsepower total, says Autocar. As standard, drive will be sent to all four wheels, a 6-speed automatic gearbox, and you can have any combination. So all engine, all electric, and it says in immediate acceleration response at any speeds. You can access the battery pack as well at very high speeds, which is key to some of that efficiency as well. Although, you know, when you're driving around town, that's really where a plug-in hybrid comes into its own. If you can keep the gas engine turned off, anything when you're just doing your chores, your commute, the usual stuff, and then use, if you have to use the petrol engine, if you have to use it, you know, get the cruise control set at 60, 70, 80, whatever your speed is, and then cruise. That is when you can use the power of the combustion engine, not accelerating up and down through the gears and wasting energy. So, of course, you got regen on that as well when you're driving around town. So, look, you can make the argument both ways for plug-in cars, and I think I have done over the years. But these kind of cars will be very, very useful for the people that don't want full electric just yet. Let's also talk about the BMW X5. Big car, the X5, and a lovely car. The M5, beautiful. The new xDrive 45e. Long-term test with the gang Auto Express and the main man there, Steve Fowler. Notes, and I quote, "My 43.5 miles per gallon average is some way short of the official 200 miles per gallon," he says, "and I'm managing to get around 47 miles from the battery. It takes a while to charge, though. The pack is 24 kilowatt hours, the same size as on the original Nissan Leaf, and the reason for the X5's decent range," he says. Well, yeah, let's dig into that. So the new BMW X5 xDrive 45e, stupid name, far too long. However, it's that their naming convention, so we'll go with it. Onboard battery of 24 kilowatt hours, but 21 usable, I must add. 54 miles, all electric, official. Steve getting 47. He's a very experienced journalist, driven plenty of EVs. He'll know how to eat that. He'll know how to drive that in all electric mode, and so I think that's about as good a data point as you're going to get. 47 miles real world. But the charging is where, with these BMWs, and correct me if I'm wrong if you're a BMW expert, this is where they fall down for me. They have a 3.7 kilowatt onboard charger. Now, as batteries get bigger in plug-ins, I would love them to have some DC fast charging for when you're on the road. Admittedly, that comes at a cost, more hardware, just more stuff to put inside the car. If you are going to stick with AC charging, an onboard charger, please make it 7 point something. 3.7 kilowatt onboard charger to charge a 24 kilowatt hour battery. Please, BMW, make those chargers quicker, because it means that if you are, say you get home, I mean, if you get home from work, if you are commuting to work these days, but in other words, if you've depleted the battery all day, you have got to charge it every single night and in full. And even if you've got a nice quick wall box on your house, it's not going to charge any quicker. And so that's frustrating. You know, you're going to be giving it 7 hours every night recharging. Also frustrating if you're on an EV tariff with your electricity at home, and maybe that'll provide you 4 or 5 hours of very cheap electricity to charge. You can't even charge your car fully in that time. I'm on the Agile tariff, so it changes every 30 minutes, and sometimes you get really, if there's an excess on the grid, you get really cheap charging for a couple of hours. So we always bung our car on for those hours when it's, you know, sometimes negative. Sometimes they pay us to charge, but 1 or 2 pence per unit and per kilowatt hour, we always just bung the car on there. And it's great because the little Zoe charges nice and quickly. Can't do that with the BMW because you've got to give it its full 7 hours if you want to fully charge it every night. Only downside to this, it's got a big battery, takes forever to charge it. Okay, I'll put a link to Auto Express in the show notes if you would like to read more about that story. Last couple of stories today. This is interesting. 80% of Tesla Model Y buyers are coming from fossil fuel vehicles. Someone named Troy, or Troy Teslike on Twitter, has been tracking Model 3 and Model Y orders for a couple of years now, and his data is crowdsourced, but it's big enough to be hopefully reasonably accurate, says Clean Technica. According to his findings, 80% 4.5 Model Y buyers are replacing a fossil-fueled vehicle. The rest are mostly replacing another Tesla. They're very small. Most of those are Model 3s, and then a tiny percentage are coming from not being car owners. So, amazing. Model Y buyers, 4 out of 5, getting those polluting cars off the road. Great news. Final story, the Hyundai 45. I should stop calling it that because it's not the Hyundai 45. It's a concept car, but we know as of recently, Hyundai's naming convention for all their EVs is going to be IONIQ, not just the car. I know, it's confusing. There is a car called the IONIQ, but all their new cars are also called IONIQ, then a number. So this is going to be the IONIQ 5, and it's been seen on the Nurburgring going fast. In quiet, in peace. Hyundai 45/IONIQ 5. Doing some high-speed tests on the Nurburgring. Looking at the spy pictures, it's glued to the road and very stable. According to Motor1.com, the good news is the vehicle is looking very much like its namesake concept car from the Frankfurt Motor Show in 2019. And nobody expected the production model to be so close to the show car, because it really was a very, very angular, but very, design-wise, very brave. Not quite Cybertruck, but one of these concept cars that you know is just going to get focus grouped to hell and just look boring at the end of it. But it's not. It's not. It's looking very close to the show car. Designers have been given the green light to go ahead with unconventional styling. And we know that they are aiming for performance with this. We know it's on Hyundai's, the group, so Kia and Genesis, which form part of that company. They've got a new platform. It's an 800-volt platform. It's kind of cutting-edge EV technology, and their battery sizes are going to be big as well. So with the Hyundai 45, big performance, dual motors, 300 miles range, and because it's the base one, it could start at 40,000, which would be brilliant. The Koreans have made some great EVs so far. It's coming next year. Bring it on. Well, that's your show for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. You can contact me via email. It's hello@evnewsdaily.com, or leave a comment on the YouTube show and I will have a look, reply if it needs a reply, or if it's just a comment, an observation. I read all of them and I look forward to what you've got to say. Thank you to our premium partners of the podcast, Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Porsche of the Village, they're in Cincinnati, Audi of Cincinnati East, and NationalCarCharging.com and AlohaCharge.com, and Derek Riley from the EV Review Ireland YouTube channel. Check out his review videos, new ones coming all the time, and check out his channel. Make sure you hit subscribe on that. If you can leave a little review on iTunes anytime for the podcast, it really helps me grow the show. That'd be amazing. Thank you if you can do that. And in the meantime, I will catch you tomorrow for Friday's edition. Have a wonderful day. Catch you tomorrow. While I've got you, do remember, there's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.